All right, you guys are good.
Hey, Ryan, it's Jeremy Warren from 24/7 Sports. Welcome to Champaign. Congrats on the gig. Why
Appreciate it.
was Illinois and Brett Bielema, after all that time in Missouri, why was that?
Oh, you just muted yourself, man.
Yeah, I was just wondering, why was Illinois, Brett Bielema, the best fit for you?
You know, like you said, after all that time at Missouri, I was there for 6 years. I really enjoyed my time there. Very thankful to not only Coach Drink, but also Coach Odom and Coach Pinkel for giving me the opportunity. My kids, that's all, Mizzou is all they know right now. And we have enjoyed our time in Columbia. I have goals and aspirations as a coach in this profession. And, the thing that was attractive about this job was Coach Bielema, getting back into the Big Ten after spending the last 3 years in the NFL and two of those being with the GOAT and Bill Belichick. And as a young coordinator, it's a chance to get to somewhere and continue to grow as a defensive mind. And so I've always thought that Illinois is a place where you can win, and with the right infrastructure, the right leadership, and I think Coach Bielema is definitely that. And so when I got the phone call that he was interested, I was excited about the opportunity to come interview, and then through the interview process, just getting to know him and seeing his vision for this place and seeing the community and seeing how much support that this program and Coach Bielema has garnered in such a short amount of time. It was attractive, and it just felt like it was time. It was a new chapter, a new challenge, and one that I'm very excited and humbled and blessed to be a part of.
Obviously, you were under the wing of Barry Odom, had to learn a lot from him over the years. I imagine you took a lot as well last year in kind of an elevated role with Coach Drinkwitz. So what would you learn from last season?
Well, last season was a challenge. The thing I liked, when my time with Barry is when he gave me the coordinator title. He let me run it. You know what I mean? I was the game planner and the play caller, and that was one of the good things about him as a head coach. And then obviously, this past season, being under Coach Drinkwitz and him being offensive guy, I was still able to do that. 2020 had its own challenges, obviously with COVID and opt outs, and I think one of the things that people don't realize is when the guys that opted out, usually typically weren't your starters; they were your backups. So when your starters did go out, you weren't playing with backups. Sometimes we had to play with freshman offensive linemen at nose guard and wide receivers at corner and quarterbacks at safety. So they just everybody had their own challenges, and so that was a challenging point of this year. Still was very proud of the way we went and fought, and shoot, went 5-5 and an all SEC schedule. So like I said, I've got full confidence that that program is going to take off and go in the right direction under Drink's leadership. But just felt it was time to sort of pave my own way and start a new chapter at a place in a conference where I think we can win. And this is definitely that.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Hey Ryan, Joey Wagner here. I guess I'm curious. You've been in this profession for like 10 years now, but you're only 34. How did you know so quickly that this was going to be something you wanted to do, and why is coaching important to you?
Good question, man. It's funny, when I was done playing, I thought I was done. I'd been around ball my whole life. My dad played at Colorado, and they had me my mom and dad had me at a very young age, so I kind of just grew up around the game. But then when I had a mentor at Colorado, his name was Estes Banks, and we used to have lunch every Thursday my senior year. So when football was over, he was like, "Well, what do you ball? Let's figure out what you want to do with the rest of your career." And I knew I loved the high pressure, high stakes situations that football brings about. I like that pressure. I like being in a team oriented environment. I like the goal setting environment. And I liked being in a leadership role. And so, we were mapping out some career paths, and he was like, you can join the military, or, go trade stocks in the stock market, or you coach football. Well, I'm not great with numbers, and I didn't feel like going to war. So, I talked to Dan Hawkins, who was our head coach, and he was very emphatic that he thought I would do well in this profession, along with some of my position coaches and coordinators. So I spent that first year as a student assistant on defense, and then I got a chance to go be a GA at Arizona the following year with Mike Stoops and Greg Brown, who was my position coach at Colorado. And then the following season, I attacked that job like I was a coach, and kind of put the player aspect aside. And Mike Stoops felt comfortable enough to hire me as the full-time secondary coach that following year. So, for whatever reason, the X's and O's have always kind of made sense to me. I grew up playing quarterback, and so when I got to college, making the transition to safety, I was able to understand what you're getting formationally and from splits and down and distances and scenarios and things like that. So that helped the transition to defense. And then I've been blessed to be around a lot of really good defensive coaches. You talk about a guy like Mike Stoops and Bob Stoops at Oklahoma. Their track record of defensive performance speaks for itself. Like I mentioned, Greg Brown has coached 3 Thorpe Award winners. Then I went to North Texas and was with Dan McCarney and John Sladany, who have again, 2 really good defensive minds. And then I got hooked up with Barry Odom, and everybody's kind of seeing what he's doing now and what we were able to do at Missouri. So it's a combination of just my upbringing and then being around really good mentors and being at the right place at the right time and taking advantage of opportunities when they came.
Can you kind of shed a little light on the timeline of how this came together with you and Brad, and what's the common thread, I guess, between you guys to connect you for this position?
Tony Peterson was at Missouri a couple of years ago, Barry's last year as an analyst. And I always respected sort of his viewpoint and on ball and his football IQ and what he's done in his career. And then, so I got a phone call from Tony to see if I'd be interested, and I said absolutely. And I got a phone call from Brett, and we got on a plane and interviewed, and then a couple of days went by, and I got the call that it would work out, and I jumped at the opportunity.
Appreciate it. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too, Joey.
Hey Ryan, Colin Likas from the News Gazette. Good to meet you, and congratulations. You mentioned before Illinois being a place you think you can win at. Can you explain a little bit about what you knew about Illinois football coming in here when you took this job?
Well, I knew that it's the flagship school of the state, and I knew the proximity to Chicago, to Indianapolis, to St. Louis, and so you talk about where you're getting your recruits from. There's talent there. And then, you talk about this conference and what side of this conference you're on and who you're competing against. We were going to play Iowa in the bowl game at Missouri. So I was able to watch a lot of tape and in particular the Iowa, Illinois. And I didn't see a lot of disparity between the two in terms of roster talent. And so, like I said, I thought that this would be a place, with the right pieces in place and the right backing that can be special, and I feel like we can do something that hasn't been done here in a long time. And I'm excited for the opportunity.
And then your guys' passing defense at Missouri recently has been pretty strong, without going into obviously like X's and O's, but your basic philosophy on passing defense specifically, because Illinois' pass defense kind of hit and miss last season. What do you feel like you bring to the table in that regard?
From obviously, we get the schematic question out of the way. You know what I mean? What I've learned throughout my career is that you got to do what's best suited for your roster and not try to make your roster do what you want them to do. You know what I mean? And so, but from a philosophy standpoint, I'm a believer in and making quarterbacks throw in tight windows. I like to close the middle of the field, and I like to confuse and harass the quarterback. And those are aspects of defensive football that and that I believe in. Now, how you do that, you can get to do that in different ways, and from different fronts, different disguises, and different schemes. But from a philosophical standpoint, I think those things are critical to having and playing good pass defensive football.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yep, no problem, Colin.
Hey, Ryan, Matt Stevens with Illini Now, Sports Illustrated. Welcome to Champaign. It seems like throughout your resume, the one thing I noticed without having met you in person before today is that you've had defensive-minded bosses that have really given you a lot of freedom and allowed you to basically, start your career and exceed your career throughout your time. And you kind of mentioned it a little bit, but can you talk about, what you tried to take notes from people like Bob Stoops and Mike Stoops and Barry and how that molded your career?
Yeah, I mean, you look at what they do well, and you try to emulate some of that, and you're all forever learning and creating a catalog of information and in your experiences, and so there are things that each one of those guys did really well that I've been able to hold on to and try to emulate or try to tweak here and there, and that could be everything from how you deal with the media to how you teach certain techniques to, how aggressive you are in play calling, to how you address the team. There's a lot of things that go into coaching in a lot of different areas that lead to successful products on Saturday. And like I said, I've been blessed to be around some really good guys that have had proven success. And I've learned a lot from them.
I was also interested to maybe find out that it seemed like the recruiting philosophy at Missouri, especially during your time, was more position-based oriented. And what I mean by that is it seemed like you went and got guys in your position group, and it wasn't just geographic based. Is that more or less accurate? One, and two, it seems like that allowed you to go into a lot of different markets and be able to get kids, Texas, St. Louis, California, West Coast, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Everywhere I've been, it's kind of been different. The last couple of years at Missouri, it was more position oriented. You still had an area where in the springtime you would go out and try to get a list of guys from a larger scope, and then off of that you dove into more position. We did get kind of back into more area this past season with Drake. But you still find your position group more so than any other position group in your areas. It's just kind of natural that way. And so you're right. I've recruited in Texas. I recruited in, most recently I've really hit the ground running in Florida. But I've been all over. Been in St. Louis. Been everywhere in Texas. Been in Colorado. Been in Arizona. And dabbled a little bit in California.
And lastly, my last question is on staff. You're the first defensive guy on this new staff for Brett. Do you feel like you will have not only an impact, but also a philosophy on who you'd like to bring in as your defensive-oriented assistants?
Brett and I have been talking collectively about it. Obviously, he's going to have a lot more list of guys than I will. He's been around. I'm 34. I'm about to turn 35 in a second. But we are doing it together, and I've got a lot of respect for the people that he has brought up, and so I'm excited about it. Excited going through the process. And at the end of the day, he's the head coach and he'll have the final say. So, but we are doing it together, and I'm appreciative of that for sure.
Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it.
No problem, Matt.
Hi, Ryan. Scott Beatty, WDWS Radio. Glad to have you in town.
Thanks, Scott.
How do you describe your scheme? You talked a bit about your philosophy, and are you coming in trying to establish that, or you're adapting it to what's here already in terms of the players?
Yeah. So from a scheme standpoint, we don't know yet. It's we've got to get to know the players. And I just got on campus yesterday. I'm gonna spend all afternoon on the phone and trying to get to know the guys currently on the roster. But I think one of the things that's attractive and exciting about this opportunity is you get to build something, and you know, we want to build Illinois' defense. You know what I mean? And do what is best suited for the guys that we got in the locker room. Obviously, there's things from a philosophy standpoint that you lean towards, and from an attitude standpoint that you lean towards. But this will be something that we build, and I'm excited to get to work on building that.
How would you describe yourself personality-wise as a coach and your approach? Just this is my first interaction with you, as the rest of us. Your initial impression, kind of even keel, but maybe you're different on the field.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys saw the picture of that they released yesterday with me screaming. But I would say I'm a teacher first. You know, I don't yell and scream just to yell and scream. You know, if I'm yelling, it's probably because of something happened that should not have happened. And you know, but definitely a teacher first. I'm really big into getting to know the guys on a personal level. You know, it's you've got to build trust and respect in order to get the most out of each individual. And so you know, it's not player coach. We got to do this together. In order for us to have success, we have to do it together. And so, you know, but I am ultra competitive in everything I do. You know, whether it's a video game or on the golf course or on the practice field. You know, so I will be more vocal in terms of the volume of voice I use when you step on the grass. But like I said, I'm a teacher first, and I like to have fun. This is a you know, we get to my job is to coach a game, and I don't want to lose sight of that. You know what I mean? It is a game, so let's go play and have fun during the process and compete and try to develop and grow to maximize, you know, everybody's potential.
And then lastly, anything you'd like to tell us about your family?
Yeah, so I've got two boys, 4 and 6. They'll be 7 and 5 here real soon. The oldest is named Aaron. The youngest is Kason. My wife and I grew up together in Colorado. I've known her since like 6th, 7th grade. You know, we started dating when I was a junior in high school and have been together ever since. And so, you know, I think that works because, you know, we were friends first, and, you know, that's my best friend. So they're excited about the opportunity. You know, obviously they have enjoyed their time in the community that they've built in Columbia. But you know, I was FaceTiming with them this morning. My son actually canceled his Zoom call when I called and got on the FaceTime and was fired up that I was wearing, you know, the blue and the orange. And was wanting me to bring back some Illinois stuff whenever I get a chance to shoot back for a weekend.
Very good. Welcome.
Thanks.
Hey, Coach, Bob Osmondson with the News Gazette here in Champaign. Welcome to town, of course.
Thanks, Bob.
You met some great people you worked with over the years. If you had a really important question, if you had one person to call, who's that person? Who's that coach from your past you really rely on? Kind of shoot you straight.
You know, it depends on what area. You know what I mean? You know, for career advice. You know, I'll call Barry and ask him what's going on. You know, from a philosophy standpoint, we're talking, you know, pass game. I'll call Greg Brown. I think he's a great, you know, passing game defensive mind. If there's something that I think is wrong with culture or something like that, I'll call Bob. So there's, you know, I've got a long list of really good coaches, and I've also worked with really good coaches that we've been able to come up with answers and to problems within the staff too. So I've been blessed.
Last thing, how big of a disappointment was it not to have the bowl to wrap up the season for you guys?
It was tough, man. You know, for the players, you know, my hat's off to them. I don't think people realize how taxing, not only from a physical standpoint, but an emotional standpoint, it was for players this year. And so, you know, we gave them the opportunity to go home for Christmas and then come back, and they were excited to hit the ground running and get to practice. And then, you know, there was too many positives, couldn't play in the game. So it was, you know, just almost like an empty ending to a season that you were proud of. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping that next year looks a little bit different in terms of protocols and you know where the virus is, so that we can get into some normalcy within collegiate athletics for sure.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah.
Hey, Ryan, Nico Hefflinger, Fox, Illinois. Congratulations on the hire. You mentioned that you watched a little bit of tape. You know, you saw that Iowa game. Was just wondering if you've had a chance to maybe look at any other tape from the season, and are there any guys or position groups that you're kind of excited to get to work with?
You know, I haven't been able to watch. Like I said, I got here yesterday. Was doing HR all day. You know, been in interviews today. And when I was watching the tape, I was trying to figure out how to stop Iowa. You know what I mean? What stood out though was that, you know, no matter who Iowa was playing, there was not a lot of parity. You know what I mean? There are guys on the roster that I recognize just from a recruiting trail that I'm excited about. You know, there's a couple of seniors that I need to get on the phone with to make sure that they come back. You know, I'm excited to get to know the roster, excited to hit the ground running, and you know, like I said, I wouldn't be here if I didn't think that we could build something special, and that's why I'm here, and that's what I'm going to work my tail off to go do.
You mentioned as well, kind of, you know, not necessarily coming in with a specific scheme, but kind of, you know, learning the tendencies, seeing what you got on the roster. Does that really excite you that, you know, you can kind of come in and, you know, take that, you know, your style and Illinois style once you kind of get used to the roster and kind of create something new here?
Yeah, it really does. You know, that's to me, that's the fun part of being a play caller is creating, and you know, it'll be awesome to start from scratch and not try to marry, you know, philosophies or systems, but to be able to start from the ground up and cater it to, you know, what the roster is, I think is a exciting challenge, and I can't wait to get started.
Thanks, Ryan. Welcome to Champaign.
Thanks.
Hi, Coach. Marley Weirda from WCIA. Welcome and congratulations. What does, I guess, the ideal player for you look like? You know, maybe personality-wise or on the field. What do you look to fill the mold here of this defense that you're going to build?
You know, for one, we, you know, got to be students of the game. Got to be super competitive. You know, got to be tough. And at the end of the day, in defense, you know, you got to be able to run and you got to be able to hit. You know what I mean? And so, you know, I would imagine we want to be aggressive. You know, we want to be athletic. And you got to have guys that love football because they love football. You know, you can't have guys that like what comes with being a football player and are more worried about, you know, Instagram followers or Twitter likes. You know, you got to get ball guys. You know what I mean? I think those are all things that we will be looking for here at Illinois for sure.
And I was kind of reflecting back on what you had said about, you know, the three options for your career: going to the military, trading stocks, or coaching college football. I mean, this far along now in your journey, how grateful do you feel to be able to pursue your passion here and do it at a place like Illinois?
I'm super grateful. You know, every day, you know, I wake up and count my blessings. You know, I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing with my life, and I don't take that for granted. You know, I think there are people out there that can't say that. You know, and the fact that I can do this and provide for my family is something that I do not take for granted at all. You know, just it makes me work harder. It makes me be more appreciative of everything. And to be able to do that at a place like this and in this conference with the people that are in this building already is something that I'm I'm extremely excited about and humbled. So like I said earlier, we get to work and play a game. Like that's my job. I got to pinch myself sometimes, that's reality. And so, I'm excited, man. I'm excited for, as you guys tell, I keep saying excited because I am. This is going to be a fun journey, and I can't wait to get in the throes of it.
Thank you, Coach. Welcome.
Thanks, Mom.
Coach, I have a question about something you said kind of at the beginning, where you mentioned that you went to Colorado as a quarterback and were asked to switch to safety. And I know your dad played quarterback at Colorado. So, it's a conversation a lot of coaches have with players of, hey, we need you somewhere else. What was it personally like for you to be asked to do that?
Well, I actually did the asking. I had spent my whole career, as the guy. And when I got to Colorado, Joe Klatt was there as a quarterback, and he was an older guy who had a couple of years left. And so I knew I wasn't going to play right away. I knew I was going to have to sit and sort of wait my turn because of the success that Joel was having and because of the command he had of the offense. We were in a West Coast scheme at the time, which is another reason why I think it helped with my transition to defense. Just, every pass concept you see now there are derivatives from the West Coast, you know what I mean? Also with pass protections and things like that. And so I was looking at the roster and I was like, I can sit and wait my turn, or I'm looking at the safety room and I'm like, I think I'm just as or more athletic than some of those guys, so I can go play right now. And I'm looking at long term. I'm 5'11". At that time there were not a whole lot of 5'11" quarterbacks playing on Sundays. And as a competitor, that was the ultimate goal. So I went in to talk to Coach Barnett and asked him if I could go play safety. First thing he said was, we didn't bring you here to backpedal, and we only took one quarterback in this class. But he also saw that I was serious about it, and so he let me go. We were in the middle of so I graduated early, went to spring ball. We were in the middle of fall camp, so it's full pads and everything. So he's like, all right, go ahead, you can try it. And so the first thing he did was throw me in some special teams drills and some live tackling situations. And I held my own and did a little bit more. So I was able to stay and play for 4 years and started for 3 of them. So I wouldn't be here today if I didn't make that move. So I'm glad I did.
And have you ever referenced that in speaking to one of your players about position switches and something that's pretty common in college football?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that everybody needs to learn, particularly at quarterback, if you can play other positions, is I just had a conversation with a kid at Missouri who made the switch toward the end of the year. Was like, yeah, you're a good quarterback, or yes, you're a good wide receiver, or yes, you're a good running back, but at the end of the day, you're a great football player, and so don't lose sight of that. You know what I mean? If you can play football, then it shouldn't matter what side of the ball or what position you're playing. Let's do what's best for the team and what's best for you individually to give you some longevity and maximize your earning potential in this game.
Thanks.
Yeah, appreciate you, Rob.
Y'all good?
All good?
You're right. I just had one quick follow-up. Had one quick follow-up. Ryan, I'm just one. Yeah, Brett Bielema, obviously. I don't know what you know about him as a coach before you got to talk to him, and what are you most excited to learn from him, defensive coach?
Obviously he's got a lot of success up front, and I've been a back end guy, so I think that marriage, just to continue to gain, and develop my football IQ was what attracted to me. We're just sitting down watching tape, and he's talking about what he did at New England and what he did at the Giants, and I was learning, and so that was what was attractive for me, and like I said, I'm I'm smart enough to know that I'm not smart enough to do this still by myself. And you are who you surround yourself with. And so I'm excited to build a staff to go maximize what we can put on the field on Saturdays here at Illinois.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, appreciate you, Randy.
If I could get a quick follow-up, Ryan, at 34 years old, you've had guys on your quote unquote defensive staff that have been 20 years older than you. I know Greg Brown is one of your mentors, and he was on your defensive staff at Missouri. How do you get guys that have had so much experience in this business to buy into you, just as like you try to get players to buy into you about what your philosophy is and how you want this to roll?
I just be myself, man. I don't try to emulate or be anything other than who I am, and so far that's been enough. I think naturally I'm a leader at just innately, and I believe in what I'm saying. I'm not a BSer, and I work really hard. So the things that I'm trying to get accomplished or trying to change or whatever the situation is, I've taken the time to really dive in and dissect it. So when you're knowledgeable about what you're speaking about, it's easy to follow. You know what I mean? And so that the older guys that I have worked with, I've appreciated wholeheartely, and you become friends because of the battles you go through, and that hasn't been an issue. My age has not been an issue, just because of the way I operate and the way I treat the staff, and but also the amount of work I put in.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, appreciate it, guys. Nice to meet you guys. Look forward to next time.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.